I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Welcome, folks. Thank you so much for being with us. Happy Monday to everybody out there. My name is Paul. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. So glad that you guys are with us. The telephone number, 870-275-9799. Okay, 1 second. We're having a minor, slight, first thing, Monday morning technical difficulty. What you want to do is you want to unplug. Yeah, that you just unplug that and plug it back in, and things should start to work. Because what it is, Joe, is it's an extender that's extending. You know the. Yes, that's what I would do. Well, yeah. And anyway, so that should fix the problem. Been a while. All right, so we have a good show for you. We've got a ton of news to get to over the weekend. The fallout from what was it? I mean, this racism accusation. I saw one good meme over the weekend. It was the Oprah meme where it was like, "You're a racist, and you're a racist, and you're a racist." It's pretty good. This is what the left does. They just dole out the accusation of racism. And there's a lot of hypocrisy here. I mean, this was one chant for one audience, and the president called them patriots because they are patriots. It was started by some woman in the background. You could, if you go back and watch the video, you can clearly. There was an attempt to start it, didn't work, and then send her back. And it's really all being completely blown out of proportion. The media says nothing about the actual violence that the left perpetrates through Antifa. The media says nothing about that. They say nothing about the police officers who are allowing these beatings to take place in cities up in the Northwest. And, it's just another example of blatant hypocrisy. You've got, again, rhetoric that somebody might disagree with versus actual actions that we can see and look. If there's video, mainstream press says nothing about it. Matter of fact, there seems to be some move, from what I can tell, to legitimize Antifa as an actual legitimate point of view. And fact is, if the mainstream media were to actually show you that Antifa is committing these acts of violence, and if they would actually show it to you, show it to the sheep that only get their news from the networks, then Americans reject violence when they see it. Anyway, 870-275-9799. Let's start with Bernie, though. I know the increasingly irrelevant Bernie Sanders, but hear me out. Here's Bernie Sanders talking about what Trump is trying to do to win re-election. Joe, he says he's trying to win votes by dividing the American people. Listen to this. It's fascinating.
Not just that he's a pathological liar. What he is doing that is even worse than that is trying to win votes by dividing the American people up. That is an ugly thing to do. No matter what your view may be on healthcare, education, or the environment, what a president understands, that the function of the presidency is to bring people together. We are Americans. That's what we are. And to try to gain votes by dividing us up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our religion or our sexual orientation or whatever, that is to me a very, very un-American and ugly thing for this president.
All right, so the Democrat Party is un-American. The Democrat Party's un-American then. This is how the Democrat Party's been amassing power for years. This is what they do. They divide Americans into different groups, and then they pit those groups against one another to amass political power. It's ridiculous. And again, we have to also remind you, because there may be some people on the left listening. I don't know, maybe they enjoy the pain, but President Trump's comments had nothing to do with the color of the squad's skin. It had everything to do with the content of their statements and their actions. Bernie Sanders, he's trying to win votes by dividing the American people. So there is something called projection, and according to we've put this list out before. Conduit has a list of the 7 ways that government grows, and one of those ways is projection and deflection. So you use the very thing that you're guilty of, you project it onto your opponents in order to deflect, and this happens. Most of the time this happens when there's an effort out there to educate the people about what's really going on. And anyway, but this is just classic deflection. I mean, classic projection. This is Bernie Sanders, ladies and gentlemen, saying that Donald Trump's trying to... And again, maybe they're mad that Trump stole their girlfriend. Maybe this is another example of, Trump stole their girlfriend on foreign policy. Trump stole their girlfriend when it comes to organized labor and the unions. Trump just keeps stealing. And now he's stealing their girlfriend, according to them. It's not true, but according to them, now he's stealing their girlfriend on neo-Marxism and dividing people up into groups and trying to amass political power. But according to the left, he's doing it now with white people. My goodness. What a load. Can you believe he said that? I mean, what this is they're just, I guess he's completely blind to how the Democrat Party is operated. I mean, what do you think? What do you think this has been? I mean, the whole thing from the time of the Civil War with the Democrats being the party of, being the pro-slavery party, being against freedom, and then all of a sudden, I mean, now the Democrat Party is essentially obsessed. They're still obsessed with the differences between Americans based on very trivial, shallow things like the color of your skin or where you were born, what country you were born. They're still obsessed with it. I mean, I was asking this question last week. I mean, an average leftist, based on their outrage, they walk around obsessed with the color of someone's skin and diversity. I mean, if you really look at what they get outraged about, they are obsessed over, this idea that diversity means that people need to look differently but all think the same. Which, by the way, is actually a great segue into what happened to the beauty queen. Did you hear what happened to the beauty queen, Joe, over the weekend? So there's a beauty queen. Let me see here. Go to the Daily Wire headline. It's a headline here. Watch, Trump supporter stripped of Miss World America crown reacts to racism smears. Okay, so the Daily Wire on Friday. Conservative activist and prominent Trump supporter Kathy Zhu. Kathy Zhu was stripped of her Miss Michigan crown from the Miss World America organization over past, quote, insensitive, end quote, social media posts and her refusal to try on a hijab at a college event in 2018. What a racist, right? What an absolute racist. Matter of fact, it's so bad. Can we pull up the tweet This is the Daily Mail. This was the headline. If you pull up her tweet, go to the next one. And she tweeted this: "The smearing liberal media begins." Listen, this is the headline on other sites. Racist Miss Michigan stripped of her crown. Beauty Queen 20, who tweeted offensive remarks, lost her title after one day. Unbelievable.
Doesn't Trump own the Miss America pageant?
No. I don't think this is one that Trump has anything to do with, as far as pageant goes. In the past, that was that was something else.
Miss Universe?
Yeah, I think so. Universe or something. So she's Miss Michigan. She gets stripped of this because, I mean, this is what happens. If you do anything that is of note, especially in pop culture, okay, if you do anything that is of merit, they are all these trolls that just start to go back and they want to make sure that you agree with the totalitarians. And so if you have one inkling of a thought that is outside of what they consider to be mainstream, and again, they would think that Antifa is mainstream, then you've got to be destroyed. And that's what's happened here. Now, what was the racist tweet? You know what she said? The racist tweet that they found simply said, referenced the fact that out of all of the African American deaths that are going on, most of those are caused by, the murders, African American murder, basically black on black crime. She said blacks are killing other blacks. And that is the racist tweet. That's what got her, which is, according to the FBI, according to, just look it up, really, anybody that keeps those statistics. That's exactly what those statistics are going to say. But they're saying that because she didn't cite statistics, she didn't put up an FBI link or something, because she didn't do that, it makes the tweet racist. So stating a fact without relying on an almighty government source makes you racist. Oh, and it was probably something about the way she said it. Yeah. So, also, this, again, Zhu is a Chinese immigrant. So you would think this would be somebody, okay, we should welcome this person in because we're the left and we're the party of principles and we want to we love immigrants, right? It's the Republicans that hate immigrants. The Democrats love immigrants. Oh, this is an immigrant that thinks differently than the way you do about politics. Oh. Kill her! Kill her! Obviously, I'm joking here, but so Zhu, we've got the Daily Wire here. Zhu, a Chinese immigrant who moved to the United States at the age of 5, was quickly smeared online as a racist and white supremacist. There's a lot of those Chinese white supremacists walking around. Wow, man, those are the worst ones. I just want to say thank you for all your support. She said, it's been a heck of a 2 days. Honestly, yesterday I was crying when I first saw the messages and emails from the organization, but today is a new day, and today was amazing. I'm so glad the story got brought into the public eye and the media because this is so much bigger than pageantry. This is about an organization discriminating against people with different opinions, calling people racist even when they're not. Little attacks like those really, really diminish the value and the truth of the word racism. There shouldn't just be diversity of skin color. There should be diversity of thought, of mindset, of political affiliation. I'm so glad to be the voice for this right now, and I hope that other pageant organizations really learn from this story and situation to not discriminate with others based on opinions. Don't worry, I'll still stand firm, stand my ground. I'm still going to continue to fight for what I believe in. One past post the Miss World American organization apparently took issue with was a tweet from Zhu concerning black-on-black murder. Quote, did you know the majority of black deaths are caused by other blacks? Fix problems within your own community first before blaming others. Oh, that's dripping with racism. No, it's not. It's an opinion based on a statistic that is 100% accurate. You may disagree with the opinion, right? But the statistic, it's nothing racist about it. It's a fact. We have to be honest. I mean, especially if you're going to fix our society, all kinds of problems in our society. If we're going to even attempt to do it, we have to be honest with what the situation is. In a text message screenshot posted by Zoo, Miss World America Michigan State Director Laurie DeJack questioned the beauty pageant participant over the tweet, suggesting it was racist commentary with no statistics to back it up. How is that racist? It's statistics. Didn't know statistics were racist. It's not a statistic, said DeJack. It's a comment with no statistics to back it up. Okay, so you see here, you see how absolutely they took away this woman's achievement. They took away the merit-based achievement that she won, and they took it away over essentially what amounts to a high school argument. Well, there's no statistics. Well, I cited the statistics. No, that's racist because you don't have statistics. I mean, it's literally like a junior high school level argument, and the left will ruin someone or attempt to ruin. This girl's going to end up coming out on better, I think, because of this. This will actually be better for her, which serves the Miss World America or whatever pageant right. You know, you try to tear someone down with conservative views, and then their conservative views actually are getting it's like when Barack Obama, there'd be a mass shooting and Barack Obama would come after your guns. And the only thing that would happen when there's a mass shooting and Barack Obama said, we're going to do something about it, is it would put more guns on the streets. Because, well, not on the streets, but you know what I mean? It would put more guns in the hands because we'd all go out and buy and be like, oh, they're going to take our guns away. It was like, wait a second, if you really thought guns were the problems, then you wouldn't be announcing you're going to pass new legislation making it harder to buy. Anyway, it's kind of the same deal here. Your liberal outrage is actually fueling conservative ascension in a lot of ways. We're going to take a break. Tell me what you think. It's been a crazy weekend. People are saying crazy things, including crazy Bernie. 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
All right, here we go, folks. Welcome back to the program. On this "Send Her Back" chant with Ilhan Omar, and everyone again on social media is freaking out. Listen, I think Greg Gutfeld has actually the best take on this. He said, "Pure mob insanity?" ? Apparently, you've never been to a sporting event. So that's a good point. I mean, we like to take our politics so seriously, but I mean, from a sporting event angle, a lot of people say things that they mean, but they maybe phrase them a way you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It is fascinating, and listen, I know everyone feels the need to point out that we shouldn't do that because she's like for example, Guy Benson, "Send her back" is an appalling chant. Omar's a U.S. citizen. My less catchy chant would be condemn.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Oh, man. Did anybody see? The secret's out. Last week we got to interview Dr. Horpedahl, Jeremy Horpedahl from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. And we had him on to talk about special elections. We were going over a research paper that he had done over the, what I'll describe as the deceptive nature of special elections. But his paper is really just statistics and just shows you that tax increases have a ridiculously high chance of passing if they're done in a special election. And in that interview, he divulged a piece of information that now has gone, on the front page of the Gazette. Got the Tax Foundation now defending it. Basically, Arkansas, according to new statistics, is now tied for first as the highest sales tax in the country. And we're tied with Tennessee, and Tennessee doesn't have an income tax. It is an embarrassment. It is utterly embarrassing. Excuse me. And if you want more on that, you can actually go to conduitnews.com. Right now on the front page of Conduit News, tied for worst sales tax rate. It's a disgrace. It really is. Considering that we're still kind of in the wake of the 91st General Assembly. And it is 92nd, rather. And it is, we had a chance to do something about it, but we needed more. We took more revenue from the people, and we're still the highest. It's unbelievable. We put on the ballot. We're going to be voting on the ballot to extend and make permanent a 0.5-cent sales tax rate. It's pretty sad. I'm going to talk more about this at 5. I'm sorry, at 7. I don't know what is wrong with me. I'm going to talk more about this at 7:05, and let me know what you think. I will tell you this. I thought it was interesting that we have the headline on the Gazette, Arkansas ties for number 1 in sales tax ranking, but the first part of the article is like, well, technically, if you go out to the 8th decimal, we're actually still number 2. Okay, all right, really? Yeah, we'll talk more about that coming up at 7. Also, at 7:33, I'm really looking forward to this. Had a great conversation with a guy who has had an extensive career doing all kinds of stuff. He's an Arkansan, moved here a few years back. His name is Bob Rodweller. He's going to be on the program at 7:33, and I wanted his take on a lot of stuff on his career as well as what he thinks about the state of Arkansas as somebody who moved here. I think back in I don't know, 5-6 years ago he moved here, and I got in touch with him through a friend, and it's just going to be fascinating. Wait till you hear this coming up at 7:33. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Her bigotry, combat her radicalism, and investigate her seriously alleged fraud. Yeah, definitely. We were just going over all of that. But at the same time, I mean, somebody on my Facebook wrote, well, I mean, is it possible that she could be sent back if they, actually look at the evidence and criminal charges are brought up? I'm not really sure. Folks, I'd like to actually talk about, kind of expand on this, the anti-Semitic comments from the left. I want to welcome to the program
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Here we go. So we have this absolute frenzy that took place last week. I'm sorry, Joe. That's funny. Yeah, I do. Just your comment. Okay. Anyway, so here. There was a frenzy this past week. Okay, so Donald Trump supporters are racist. All right, that's the message. We got it. The message from the media. Donald Trump supporters are racist. If you're thinking about supporting him, then you must be a racist yourself. Never mind the fact that the president called the prime minister of Sweden this weekend trying to get a black rapper out of jail. Did you hear about this? Yeah. What a who knew? The billionaire New Yorker, Donald Trump, he's really a racist. The kind of racist that calls the prime minister of Sweden to try to get a rapper out of jail. What's his name? Is his name ASAP or something? Or, I can't remember what his name is.
Have you seen this?
Rapper in Sweden. Let me see this. Hang on. Google. Yeah, ASAP. But it's with a dollar sign. The S is a dollar sign. Apparently there was some altercation, and anyway, and Trump even offered to pay his bail. What a racist! What a racist that guy is. I'll pay his bail, Mr. Prime Minister of Sweden. Yeah. Of course, he doesn't get hardly any credit for this. CNN, first of all, their headline was ASAP Rocky latest. Trump weighs in on rapper's jail treatment. That was 1 day ago. The headline should say what it was. I mean, Trump reaches out and is trying to get this guy out of jail. In the meantime, you did have White House spokesperson, I would say, Stephen Miller. He's a policy advisor, but he's also kind of a bulldog, and he went on the Sunday show. So when you guys were all in church yesterday, Stephen Miller was on the Sunday shows, facing down the liberal left. Oh, by the way, Liz Cheney did a really good job on one of those Sunday shows as well. Surprisingly, just giving it to the media, and they're just bringing up examples of their bias. About how the squad comments were all about race. The Daily Wire, again, appearing on Fox News Sunday with host Chris Wallace, who, by the way, Chris Wallace is increasingly more and more annoying. Miller addressed the recent media-generated controversy over President Donald Trump's tweets last week. In a series of tweets, Trump suggested that the far-left congresswomen who came from other countries, Omar, where there was rampant corruption, should go back to the countries, fix them, and then come back to the United States. Show us how it's done before they criticize the U.S. Wallace pressed Miller about the president repeating many of the same talking points and examples the political left uses to try to paint Trump as a racist. Quote, I fundamentally disagree with the view that if you criticize somebody and they happen to be a different skin color, that makes it racial criticism, Miller said. You saw the Congresswoman Presley last week that she was saying that if you are a brown, if you're brown, you have to speak like a brown person. If you're black, you have to speak like a black person, Miller told Wallace. That's the kind of ideology the president is rejecting. I agree. That is the kind of ideology he's rejecting. And by the way, do you understand, she actually said that. Congresswoman Presley actually said, if you are a brown person, we don't need any more brown people that don't have brown voices. We don't need any black people that aren't going to be a black voice. What does that mean? It means that based on the color of your skin, it's supposed to somehow inform your political opinions. What's more racist than that? But white people, I saw a tweet, if you're white, you don't get to decide what's racist. What a racist tweet! Oh, I guess I can't be offended by that. Well, if your skin color is X, your political opinion is more valuable, more legitimate. What is going on? And Bernie Sanders has the nerve to claim that Trump is trying to win the White House again by dividing Americans against each other? Are you kidding me? Quote, if you want to have a colorblind society, it means you can criticize immigration policy. You can criticize people's views. You can ask questions about where they're born and not have it be seen as racial, Miller said. Miller noted that the president condemned the Send Her Back chant at his rally. Quote, all the people in that audience and millions of patriotic Americans all across the country are tired of being beat up, condescended to, looked down upon, talked down to by members of Congress on the left in Washington, D.C., and their allies in many corners of the media. That's true, isn't it? You saw the quotes from Representative Omar saying, quote, some people did something at 9/11. And yes, if you watch it in context, it's worse. You saw the quotes from Representative Omar talking about how, oh, well, we talk about Al-Qaeda in a menacing tone. And by the way, she's giggling throughout this interview. but we don't talk about the Army in a menacing tone. And yes, if you watch it in context, which I have, it's even worse. This is exactly what I said, by the way, specifically about Omar's Al-Qaeda comments. I said this last week. It's way, because I think the president originally mischaracterized it about how, well, he said, Al-Qaeda, I puff up my chest. It's actually, I told you that wasn't true. It's way worse than that if you actually go watch the Omar Al-Qaeda video. She's trying to have an esoteric discussion about the psychological conditioning of Americans in a typical college classroom when they're taking a class on terrorism. The class is called Terrorism 101. And she didn't like the vocal inflection that the professor was using when he said the word or the name Al-Qaeda. She thought he was trying to make Al-Qaeda seem more menacing than they are. Seem more menacing than, go watch it. It's way worse. No, this person doesn't need to be in Congress because she is an Al-Qaeda sympathizer. And Al-Qaeda are a bunch of terrorists. Okay, let's see. Keep going here. Miller tore into Ocasio-Cortez on Fox News Sunday for falsely claiming that the U.S. is operating concentration camps on the southern border. Quote, and perhaps the most shocking of all, with the comments made by Representative Ocasio-Cortez saying that our border agents are running concentration camps, and therefore they are Nazis, and therefore everyone in that audience, and you and me and everyone who supports our border patrol are by extension Nazi sympathizers. We support Nazis if we support border agents. As a Jew, Miller went on, as an American Jew, I am profoundly outraged by the comments of Ocasio-Cortez. It is a historical smear. It is a sinful comment. It minimizes the death of 6 million of my Jewish brothers and sisters. It minimizes their suffering, and it paints every patriotic law enforcement officer as a war criminal. And those are the comments, Chris, that we need to be focusing on. And, in many regards, in some cases, many people are focusing on them that were never supposed to focus on them because the president brought this issue to light last week. But, of course, the media, y'all are a racist. It's just like Oprah. You're a racist. You're a racist. Everybody gets a racist. Frustrating, to say the least. If you want something else to be outraged about, though, we do have an interesting story about the rainbow flag. Anybody notice the rainbow flag? The rainbow is, the symbol that the gay, the LGBT, it's only a matter of time before we have acronym wars because the lesbians and the gays. First of all, the fact that lesbian comes before gay is pretty patriarchal if you think about it, because I would imagine that the gays were like, no, you go ahead, you go first, kind of like opening the door. But at some point you're going to have acronym wars because you're going to have the T's and the Q's and all. They're going to start claiming that gay people who are just gay or just lesbian, have privilege because they've been around longer and are more accepted by society, versus the trans and the RSTLNE, would you like to buy a vowel community. Eventually, it's going to happen. Gay privilege, if you will. Well, that's just your gay privilege talking. Mm-hmm. So we have a Democratic mayor in a town, a Democrat, that is refusing to raise the gay pride flag, the rainbow flag. And this, of course, will not really sink in to a lot of young people. His reasoning is not because he's anti-gay, from what I can tell. It's just that he doesn't want the government to officially, kind of like what they did down in UCA. When, the library, they tried to put some pro-gay stuff on the actual university sign, and they took it down. They said, we don't want any kind of political statements on this. Quote, he does not support flags being up that support political movements. Paul Boyce, in a surprise display of a politician departing from his party's line, a Democratic mayor in Reading, Pennsylvania, has refused to raise the LGBT rainbow pride flag over City Hall, arguing that it sends a non-impartial political message. Oh, wow. That's the common sense. But I'm sure to all of you lefties out there that, this Democrat is really a bigot, homophobic, white supremacist, KGB agent. I'm sure that's what they're going to think. Because anytime you approach them with logic or any sort of argument, trying to advocate for equity, actual equity, if it results in them not getting what they think they need or they want or they should have, then you are probably morally inferior to them. That's how the left operates. We can no longer have disagreements without the left melting down and, forming groups like Antifa, and then because they think that they have the moral right to be violent at this point, because they're approaching arguments that they're losing based on logic, statistics, facts. They say, well, you must have a moral problem. I'm morally superior to you. Therefore, you shouldn't exist. I mean, that's the end. I mean, that's where if you take their line of thought, that's the end goal, right? I mean, I know where this road ends. I know where this line of thinking is going to end. It's not hard. Not hard to figure it out. Not hard to figure it out. I mean, if you just, if you ask yourself the question, I mean, this is what how do we coexist in a society where we have differing opinions? Well, used to, that was fine, It was, we'll have maximum freedom, live and let live. But if you want people to be forced to agree with you, then, well, eventually, there are people that just will never agree. Well, so what do you do with them? Yeah. Paul Boyce, quote, the flag was originally slated to fly on Monday in recognition of Reading's Pride celebration. Yeah, I thought the Pride Month stuff was over. This is July. We're 22 days into July. The Pride stuff was in June. The corporation certainly got the memo, because as soon as July 1st hit, they were like, so long. We could use that meme. That's a good meme. What's the name of that movie that's based on? Yeah, The Hangover with Las Vegas, and you got the Asian gentleman there, who's actually an actual medical doctor. That actor is an actual medical doctor. Did you know that? He gives advice on YouTube and stuff. Oh, speaking of medical doctors or doctors in general, did you see that Dr. Drew Pensky is saying that the homeless situation in Los Angeles is so bad that the bubonic plague there's a real risk that the plague is going to, because of the rat population. And he had all these statistics. He was interviewing Seth Green, or he has some show, and he was just talking about how the government is lying to the people of Los Angeles. You should look this up. This was fascinating to me. I saw this. He's talking about how the city is saying the reason there's such a homeless crisis in Los Angeles right now is because there's not enough housing. And he says that's a lie, because he said we had all these. And what was really funny is he said we have all these illegal aliens. Undocumented immigrants who moved here. He said like 1 million people have moved here and they found housing. He was like, so we don't have a housing problem. That's a lie. The government's telling you. He said we have a mental and substance abuse problem. So we have people on the streets who literally are either addicted or they are like talking to themselves. Like those types of people have flooded Los Angeles. And that's where the homeless crisis is coming. And and he just started talking about the rat population and the population of rats versus the population of the people. And he said if it gets to 2%, then you have the plague. He says, you will have the plague. And I'm like, wow. I was like, I saw this like 3 or 4 days ago, and I finally saw a headline about it last night. Somebody actually wrote something and said, Dr. Drew Pinsky is warning that the bubonic plague could come to Los Angeles.
So I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on the show before. You were talking about that the homeless people in L.A. have either a mental disorder or what was the other one? Sorry.
Well, yes, it's a substance abuse
Substance
problem.
abuse, that's what
like
it was.
Addiction.
Substance abuse or some
addiction.
level of mental disorder where they're talking to themselves. Well, I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on the show before, but there was a social experiment done probably about 2 years ago at this point, where scientists decided to see how, because apparently the minds of rats are fairly similar in terms of social social setup.
I saw this. I know what you're about to say.
And social setup compared to human brains.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they tested this to see, hey, how does in this case a rat brain do in high levels of population and low levels of population in an area. So what they did was they put a bunch of rats in a small area and saw what happened over a period of time, and they did the exact same thing with the exact same size room, whatever they used. I can't remember exactly what they used. And
there was drugs involved though.
Were there drugs?
Yeah. This is what it was.
Yeah,
what
there
it
was
is
a smaller number of rats.
They took one rat and they put it in a cage, and they had good water, and then they had drug-laced water. And the rat that was by itself, devoid of community, had no problem getting addicted to the drug-laced water, and essentially
this is a different experiment than we're thinking of.
Different experiment.
Because the one that I'm talking about is where they have two different populations of rats. They have one that it's a very dense population of rats in a small area, and then a less dense population. Like, basically, think of it this way: in a small area, you have so take the size of the city of Jonesboro, or translate the size of the city of LA to Arkansas, and keep the population density of Arkansas. So there's not many people living on top of one another. Well, they ran this social experiment with the rats, and rats began to eat each other because they began to lose their mind
because of the too
many on top of each other, and then the other ones were just fine. They coexisted just fine.
Of those.
Interesting. And it made me think of this because the state of Arkansas has less than 3 times the population, or so has less than a third of the population of the city of Los Angeles. Just the city of Los Angeles has over 10 million people. Arkansas doesn't. I think we're broaching on 3, maybe a little over 3.
Yeah.
But still, we have less than a third of the population of a city in California.
Yeah, I want to look your study up,
no
too.
No wonder people have lost their minds while they're there.
Yeah, that's a good point. This was an addiction study, though, and eventually, anyway, the rat that was by himself with access to the drugs killed itself, essentially. Had so much, eventually got addicted to the stuff, and then quit drinking the good water, but then you take that, then they did another experiment where they put drug-laced water and regular water in a whole community of rats. I'm talking, they had wheels and tunnels, and it was like this whole thing. No one touched the drug-laced water. I mean, they would try it, realize that this is not good, and they only drank the good stuff. And it was a very interesting study in addiction and what isolation does. So anyway, we're gonna take a break. But look that up about the bubonic plague possibly coming to L.A. Also, this Democrat mayor refusing to fly the rainbow flag. The left's gonna have a conniption with this one. You wait and see. Back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
We have Mr. David Rubin is with us. David is the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's on the phone this morning. David, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. Good to be with you.
David, you are also the author of the book Trump and the Jews. What's that book about, sir?
Well, the book Trump and the Jews is about exactly what it says, Trump and the Jews, the relationship between Trump and the Jewish people, Israel, the charges of anti-Semitism incredibly against him, along with an examination of who the real anti-Semites are.
So what was the motivation? That was the motivation then to expose who are the real anti-Semites?
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Gene on Facebook writing, the rats should be the symbol of California. Ooh, that's not good. Mark writing, we're talking about the plague potentially. This Drew Pensky, the doctor there, Dr. Drew, you know. He was famous in the 90s for that show with Adam Carolla called Love Line, which was a scandalous show at the time. By today's standards, probably not anymore. Wait till the plague blooms and kills 100 homeless over a weekend and floods the ER system with critically ill. And that's Mark. I think that's probably why he's saying something here. But I also want to say, you wait, Dr. Drew Pensky, he's this guy. He's been on CNN. He's someone I'm sure the left considers socially theirs. So socially he's progressive and everything else. But you wait, they're going to attack Drew Pensky over this because Dr. Drew essentially said that the government is lying to people about the homeless situation. And the left has no room for lack of faith in government, right? The left believes that once you ascend to government that you get your angel's wings, and now you're not supposed to be questioned. Unless, of course, you're President Trump. If you're President Trump, you're in government, you can't believe anything he says. But if you're on the left and it's a city like L.A., how dare you say the city of L.A. lying to their people? Well, you wait. They're going to go after Dr. Drew for this. 870-275-9799. When we come back, Arkansas, the number one highest sales tax in the country. Next.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
And who are they, in your opinion?
Well, look, we always knew that there were some neo-Nazis and anti-Semites on the far right, but they're actually very few in numbers, whereas the anti-Semitism in the far left is growing in leaps and bounds, and there are quite a number of members of Congress who definitely would fit the definition of an anti-Semite. And it's very troubling. It's not just those 4 congresswomen. It's also those on the far left, quite a few members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And, this is all very troubling, but it's the reality. And President Trump, it's kind of fascinating about the criticism of President Trump by some of the more liberal Jews, who many of whom have called him anti-Semitic, which is absolutely absurd because he actually has stronger connections in many ways with the Jewish people than some of these liberal Jews do.
And I hear he's really popular in Israel. Is that true?
He is wildly popular. And it goes across the political spectrum, too. It's not just those on the right, and it's not just those at the center. And it also includes a lot of Israelis on the left. And the reason for that is very simple. He has done more than any president in American history to strengthen the relationship between Israel and the United States. It's that simple.
Meanwhile, I saw this. Again, we're talking with David Rubin. He's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's the author of a book, Trump and the Jews. You need to check it out. I'm going to talk about his organization here in just a minute. But meanwhile, this is the Twitter war that's been going on between Donald Trump and really the Democrats all week. He's also calling out the entire party because now the party seems to be embracing their far-left anti-Semitic fringe, which is also, socialist. Then you got Joe Biden. You got Pete Butt Edge, as Trump called him last night, criticizing Israeli, quote, occupation. What do you think about that?
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We can't do the show without you listening every single day. My name is Paul. Happy Monday to everybody out there listening. So, big news. I mean, I just want to remind everybody. So, we had Dr. Jeremy Horpedahl from the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics on the program Thursday of last week. You can find that video, that interview about the pitfalls of special elections on the YouTube channel or the website, conduitnews.com. But the YouTube channel, please go subscribe to the YouTube. It's a way that you can really, really help the program. You want to help the program, you want to keep this program going, you got to go subscribe to that YouTube channel. And you want to click the little bell to receive notifications too. So, while he was on the program, Dr. Horpedahl basically said, oh, by the way, the new statistics come out, and Arkansas is now tied for first, now number one highest state sales tax in the nation. How's that for structure? How's that for a welcoming business environment? Well, you see, Paul, what you don't understand is that we have had a very productive session when it comes to tax policy, and we have restructured the state to where it is now going to be. Eventually, once the tax rates are lowered, eventually, at some point in the future, we will have a structure that is historically better for the state of Arkansas. It's all bogus, let me tell you that. It all comes down to one thing, and one thing only. Life is about that one thing. Anyone ever seen City Slickers? It was about that one thing. He told us about that one thing, did he? Great soundtrack, City Slickers, by the way. It's all about one thing. How much money's coming from the people? That's all that it matters. Doesn't matter about the tax structure going from 6.9 to 5.9. That's a good thing. I mean, who's going to say it's not a bad thing? But structure doesn't matter if the people don't have their money to spend. Taxpayer money is the opium of legislators. You guys are addicted to it. We know you are. You raised our taxes. And now, because other states around us are being more proactive in shrinking the size of their governments, giving more economic freedom, which is a prerequisite of other freedoms to their people, we are now going up on lists we shouldn't be going up on. We're going up on lists that we should be going down on based on the Republican platform. But something is wrong. Of course, we already know we know what the issue is. It all has to do with leadership. A lack of actual conservative leadership, and part of that is because people are afraid to lead because of retribution from those who are in those leadership positions now. So, let's just get right to it, shall we? Let's go to the front page of Conduit News. Tied for worst sales tax rate. It's a disgrace. and this is courtesy of Conduit for Action. With Arkansas's combined state and local sales tax rate being near the worst in the nation in 2018, the 2019 governor and legislature had an opportunity to reduce sales tax rates in the 2019 legislative session, but chose not to. Now, Arkansas's combined state and local sales tax rate is statistically tied with Tennessee as being the highest in the nation. Arkansas's combined state and local sales tax is 9.465%, while Tennessee's is 9.469%. Oh, and by the way, Arkansas Democrat Gazette quoted people making sure you knew that technically we're still number 2. If you take it out to the correct decimal. For Arkansas politicians, misery loves company, but our Tennessee neighbors are not in the same sinking ship with us. Tennessee taxpayers do not have to pay an income tax on normal wages, and their remaining special tax on interest and dividends has been repealed effective 2022. Instead of our politicians giving Arkansans relief on sales tax during the 2019 legislative session, the governor and legislature looked for ways to collect more sales tax from you and me. You and me, and the bottle makes 3. First, the governor pushed and the legislature passed the so-called internet sales tax. They spun it as a tax on out-of-state businesses, but all the tax money comes from you. By the way, we're now paying that on our, all of your Spotify, Amazon, all that stuff. A few discussed the idea of at least reducing our sales tax rate based on the extra money to be collected under the internet sales tax. Politicians didn't give serious consideration to giving sales tax relief with the extra tax money, preferring to keep all the internet sales tax money to grow state government. Second, the legislature, with the support of the governor, passed a proposal to put on the ballot a constitutional amendment to impose a permanent half-cent sales tax dedicated to highways and roads. They want to impose the new tax after an existing tax of the same rate expires. And if 2018 had not been an election year for the office of governor, we might also be paying a full sales tax rate on groceries. When the legislative task force on taxes considered the idea of increasing the sales tax on groceries to the full rate, Governor Asa Hutchinson remained neutral until after all the other candidates announced they opposed the idea. If Arkansas's sales tax, if our sales taxes are the worst, what does that say about Arkansas's political leaders? That's a great question. Again, it's up right now at conduitnews.com. We're number 1. We're number 1. What an embarrassment. What an absolute embarrassment. I found the Gazette's coverage of this very interesting, by the way. First of all, let me see if we got anything over on the Facebook page. Patty on Facebook. They cannot give to one without taking from another. Taxpayers need to stand up and say no more to the takers, except for they now outnumber the producers. And now that's a very, very, I know where your brain's going there, Patty. Takers, producers, very, very good. The Gazette's coverage on this was interesting to me. Very interesting piece. Let me go to the front page here. This was yesterday morning, right? Is it Saturday or I think yesterday? Listen to this. I love this. Joe, go ahead and show this. The headline here: State ties for number 1 in sales tax ranking. And the sub-headline on the print version, rounding makes total levies to 9.47%. They spend the first part before you turn the page and go where the fold is or go to the next page. They make sure that you know that this is because they're rounding the decimal point. Thanks to rounding, Arkansas and Tennessee have the highest combined state and local sales tax rates among the 50 states, according to the Washington-based Tax Foundation. Arkansas's rate is 9.47, consisting of a 6.5 state sales tax and a 2.97 average local sales tax as of July 1st, while Tennessee's is 9.47%. It's made up of 7% state sales tax and 2.47% local sales tax, the foundation reported. Now listen to this, though. Quote, technically, Arkansas is still number 2 if we go out to the third digit. So it's the same as in the past, the foundation's vice president of federal and special projects, Nicole Keating, said in an email last week to the Gazette. Now let's stop there for a second. Really? What a stretch that is. Now, listen, the Nicole Keating was actually, you got to remember something. Nicole was used by the Arkansas Legislative Task Force, which we now know is a farce. The reason we know it was a farce is because what they did was raise our taxes, okay? They stalled, and they did what we all knew they were going to do, which was give us more money, take more money from us. Because, see, back in 2017, they tried to pass actual tax cuts, and they were told, no, wait. And the reason they were told no, wait is because they knew that Medicaid expansion was going to be outrageously more expensive than what they were telling people at the time. And only certain lawmakers, the ones that were in, were privy to that knowledge. So when you estimate, that this year our share was going to be, $50 million, and instead it's $138 million, you've got real problems. You can't cut taxes that way. So what they do, we'll cut taxes, but we'll decide in a task force. And what we really did was we'll come up with this carefully crafted plan where we'll lower the rates eventually, but in the meantime, we'll increase taxes. 2020, folks, because of the 92nd General Assembly, is a net tax increase of $70 million on the people of Arkansas in fiscal year 2020, which started July 1st. So you have to understand here that Nicole Keating of the Tax Foundation was used as an advisor to try to essentially, recommend. She was recommending, with the Tax Foundation, that's her, employer, what we need to do. And so in a lot of ways, there's just an incentive for her to come to the defense and to say, well, technically we're still number 2. And it's so funny to me because well, if you take it, I mean, she actually said that. It's laughable to me. If you go to the third digit, we're technically still number 2. I mean, let's do anything to keep the people of Arkansas from realizing that they're paying, so much for a government. And Tennessee obviously doesn't have an income tax. So that is what I would call political spin. I don't know about you guys. Pretty funny to me. Let's see here. Do we have more on this? Because see, I'm actually looking at newspaper cutouts. By the way, telephone number 870-275-9799. If you would like to contribute to the program, you can call or text us 870-275-9799. I'm sorry here, 1 second. Scrolling down. Here we go. Let's see, highway taxes. So the Gazette here then goes on to talk about taxes for highways led to the big jump in Arkansas sales tax ranking in 2013. Okay. Other states a year ago, Arkansas combined sales tax rate third in the nation was 9.42%. Arkansas jumped to second place in July due to a number of annexations where cities were absorbed into neighboring localities with higher sales taxes. According to the Tax Foundation, Louisiana has the third highest average combined state and local sales tax rate at 9.45%, while Washington has the fourth highest, Alabama fifth. Wow, that's good company there. Oh, and by the way, we have localities, because we're talking about the average rate here. We have localities like Fort Smith that just tried to raise their sales tax a couple months ago, and we have the city of Jonesboro that's trying to raise their sales tax. And this is, I guess the people not understand. Some people don't understand that there's a tipping point. There is a point where you discourage economic activity because you make your products too expensive. Do you understand this? Now, maybe for middle, upper middle, rich people, they don't care. But for lower income people, it does make a huge difference. Taxes discourage behavior. When you tax something, you are discouraging that behavior because you're making it more expensive. Folks, it'd be one thing if we didn't have an income tax, but we do. This is a big deal. Listen to this. Asked about the foundation's findings, Governor Asa Hutchinson said Friday, quote, "The Legislative Tax Reform and Relief Task Force discussed this issue at length throughout 2018. One of the debates centered around capping state and local sales taxes at a certain amount, the latter of which fluctuates from county to county. While that item was not addressed during the most recent legislative session, I'm certain that conversation will continue as lead up to the next meeting of the General Assembly. Meanwhile, it's important to note that in January of this year, we implemented the final cut to the sales tax on groceries. This reduced the sales tax revenue by over $60 million. This milestone means the state has decreased the sales tax burden for all Arkansans." Boy, that's political spin. It's also called legislative plagiarism. The governor had nothing to do with the grocery tax cut. Nothing. And I'll remind you, he was going to raise your grocery taxes. But then he had a primary opponent and a Democrat opponent that were blasting the task force for even considering it. So he came out, and it was a big deal when he killed that movement. But that's what they were going to do in the interest of fairness. They wanted to tax people who tried to feed themselves. Yeah. And you can't take credit for the $60 million, by the way, because you had nothing to do with it. You had nothing to do with it. 870-275-9799. But hey, they're going to spin it all they want. The bottom line is, I got audio clip after audio clip after audio clip. I have legislator after legislator after legislator who came on this program and said, yes, taxes are going up. More money is going to come from the people into the government coffers because of the 92nd General Assembly. Period. According to DFNA's own numbers. Period. You can try to spin it all you want. But this is really embarrassing. And it's just a national, it's a national organization's list. And, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, listen, we're talking to people in the state of Arkansas, in the upper echelons, the establishment, that really don't like being judged. I mean, they don't like being judged by talk radio hosts, but they also don't like being judged by, scorecards. Multiple organizations, not just Conduit, but multiple organizations. They'll try to criticize scorecards. And so they're probably not too thrilled with the Tax Foundation. But hey, Tax Foundation is just they're just compiling statistics and reporting. Is that so bad? 870-275-9799. I got to go to break. Back in just a moment.
Are you tired?
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
David.
Yes, in a minute, Pete Buttigieg will be accusing us of homophobia if I criticize him. Look, there are people there on the far left of the Democratic Party, and unfortunately they're becoming the core of the Democratic Party because everyone else is afraid of them because they're so aggressive. But instead of looking at the content of what President Trump says or what President Trump does, they just call names, call everyone a racist, and they'll invent new diseases like Islamophobia and homophobia, and soon there'll be a new disease called people of color phobia. It's just ridiculous. It makes absolutely no sense. And President Trump has just been doing a great job, and he's, just look
The palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right. Let's see here. Man, it just is what it is, I mean, we just gotta survive this, big government period in Arkansas that we're still in, It's you say it's transition. And I guess that would be the frustrating thing is if you look at the amount of tax revenue that's been sucked up from the people, and you also look at the level of corruption that we also have in our state government. It's kind of depressing. It's kind of depressing out there. So definitely. 870-275-9799. Okay, hey, coming up, I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman that I met by the name of Bob Rodweller. He's an Arkansan who is incredibly interesting to talk to and has an incredible story, really, I think, as well as a good perspective. Somebody who moved here from Arkansas, or moved to Arkansas a little later in life, and what he thinks about what's going on. So we're going to talk to him coming up at 7:33. Reminder, on the front page of Conduit News right now, tied for worst sales tax rate. It's a disgrace. Read it right now at conduitnews.com. And we got your meme of the day coming your way, I guess, around 7:50, as well as this really, really ironic story about Bernie Sanders and the minimum wage. Bernie Sanders is now cutting staffers' hours to pay a $15 minimum wage, complains about them talking to the media. because he turns out he wasn't paying them a $15 minimum wage, and so now, anyway, it's pretty funny. He's having to make a business decision, and now he's got less productive employees. Wait till you hear this story. Back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
I look at things in his foreign policy where he's been consistent, where he's strengthened ties with true allies of the United States. He has forged new alliances such as Israel and Saudi Arabia and a couple of other Arab countries that heretofore did not have a great relationship with Israel. And it's an alliance against the threat from Iran. So he's just done a lot of very great things in foreign policy.
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, well, whoa. Too excited in here. Real quick, we hadn't talked about Iran at all, but there's some weird stuff going on with Iran. We've got war drums that are beating, but Iran is now sentencing, according to reports, Iran is claiming that they've arrested 17 CIA spies and have sentenced them to death. That is a very interesting claim and piece of information. We'll see what happens with this, but let's hope it doesn't end in any sort of war or prolonged military conflict. Let's certainly hope for that. Okay, so I want to introduce you to a gentleman that I met last week. I was introduced by a friend. We had some pretty good phone conversation. Very fascinating. He's an Arkansan. His name is Bob Rodweller. Bob, how are you, sir? Good morning to you.
I'm great, thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming on the program. Now, reason I want to have you on is because I think you have a very interesting perspective as somebody who, well, when did you move to Arkansas, sir?
2012.
Okay, so 2012, so relatively new. But so let's just start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland and spent my life there. My parents moved from Princeton, out of Princeton, New Jersey, to Baltimore to be around Hopkins, and that's where I grew up. Loved the state, but it was time.
It was
time
time
to move.
Yeah. Okay. So born in and raised in Maryland, and military career.
Spent 7 years in the Army, 15 months in Vietnam. I'd gone for my second tour. We volunteered to do the second tour, and a friend of mine and I we mixed it up with a 122 rocket, the Rocket 1, and we were sent home. And I spent the next 5 years with the 11th Group for Special Forces out of Fort Meade, Maryland.
Wow. Okay. And so after military service, you went to school?
Well, when I went to school, I got my undergraduate degree in computer science and business, and went on to get my graduate work, and I had a lot of fun with that. That's something I've always wanted to do: be a computer scientist, work on computers.
Wow.
Kind of a techie kind of guy.
Yeah.
But it has been, and I continue to enjoy it because I'm still teaching classes. I'm going to teach a class in the fall on artificial intelligence here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
So it's kept me busy.
That's great. And where do you teach at?
Over at the University of Arkansas.
U of A. Okay, that's great. Artificial intelligence. Okay, so then after education, I'm assuming married. You got any kids?
One child. We have one daughter who's trying to follow Dad's footsteps, but she went into psychology, and she's doing cancer research she was working at Hopkins, then moved to, got an offer at Nashville, at Vanderbilt. She's over doing cancer research in Nashville.
So then you went to work where?
Well, I went to work, I retired from the Federal Reserve first time, and that was in 2005. And then I took a position at Computer Science Corporation in 6 months later. And stayed with them until 2012, and that's when we moved to Arkansas.
So tell me about the Federal Reserve. What was it like working there?
That was great. It was just absolutely great. You learned a lot about the central bank, the United States. I saw a lot of people in and out of. I was at the Board of Governors in Washington D.C. So I was there when Chairman Greenspan, Alan Greenspan, was the chairman. So a lot of the politicians would come in the mornings, and during the day you'd see it was like a revolving door. They always wanted to get information from him and what was happening. They got to see what's actually made D.C. beat back in the heartbeat of D.C. back in the day. But I don't know if it's that way any longer.
Wow, you mean like the Federal? So you think the Federal Reserve was driving the ship?
Well, just think about all the economic policies that came out of the Federal Reserve that were good for the country at the time. And the politicians wanted to be right up there knowing what's happening. So
no question.
Follow the money.
Exactly.
Follow the money.
Exactly.
Follow the money.
Again, we're talking with Arkansan Bob Rodweller. And so you're retired now. You already mentioned that you're still teaching, though, keeping busy, teaching some classes. What else do you do to stay busy in retirement?
Well, I was riding my bicycle, and I think we talked about that. In 2007, I rode my bicycle across the United States raising money for Fisher House and wounded veterans. And it was about 4,286 miles. I was going to do it again on the 10th year anniversary, 2017. So that kept me busy until I wound up in the hospital with ventricular tachycardia.
Wow.
Or VTAC. But that slowed me up a little bit. So what I've done is I've started to write and just reflect on life. And I'm just watching politics a little bit more than I would care to these days. But
so are you're involved with political organizations. I mean, you live in Washington County, so I mean, the Washington County Republican Committee. You go to those meetings?
Well, I was going to those meetings up until, well, I guess right after I got out of the hospital. And at that point in time, it wasn't going anywhere. To me, we're not doing. They were just talking business as usual, and that was the thing that I didn't want to see, because I thought there's a lot of things that need to be done, and they talked about things that making things different, but I never saw anything happening. For example, the Electoral College. There's a big push across the United States to change the Electoral College, or have what is it, the
popular
states,
vote, yeah.
Convention of States. And I'm thinking that's the wrong push. There's other things to go about this. You bring up some suggestions about how to do that, and it's okay. Thanks. On to the next topic. So I thought, I almost lost my life. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time doing that. But I'm still friends with some from my combat buddies, and we share back and forth information from time to time, and we write to each other. And, so it's also teaching some of the classes, and I've also taught a class on Electoral College, and it's allowed me to go back and reread the Federalist Papers a couple times. So if people really want to learn about what's happening in today versus what happened, how our country was founded, they start reading some of the founding documents.
Yes.
And I think it's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but Arkansas is a great state, and I'll give you some reasons why. We've got 52 state parks. It's just absolutely gorgeous. They're beautiful state parks. You've got things here for culture up in northwest Arkansas, and I'm sure down in Little Rock and Jonesboro you have the same. We have Walton Arts Center, you have Crystal Bridges, you have all these things going on in the state. You go anywhere around the state and find things to do. But what I'm afraid of, let me step back. What attracted me to the state was the openness and the generosity of the people. And I think that's a benefit and a detriment, because I think some people are using that to their advantage. And I think that's the political class.
Okay, so yeah, expand on that, because you're right. The average Arkansan is very hospitable, and so you think that can be exploited?
It is, don't you think? Don't you think it's being exploited? I mean, they don't have time. They're trying to work. They're trying to make a living. They're trying to educate their children. They're living their lives, and so as a result, they don't have time to go into researching. They're not working on a PhD or anything like that, more on that kind of level of research. But a lot of things happen. For example, we first moved here. They had this whole term limits. It was a fiasco. I forget the name of the bill.
Yeah, it was.
This is great.
Yeah, issue
something
3.
about gifts or something. Yeah. And my wife and I just moved here, and we said, well, that's not a bad thing. We didn't read the entire bill, because we were looking for homes, thinking about building. We built, we were in the process of building a house, maybe even then. And lo and behold, on page 16 of the legislation, it said something about, instead of being 2 terms, you go to 10 terms or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm going, no, that's not right. So to me, that's exploitation.
Yeah, the guy who wrote that is now in prison. So.
Oh, I know, and well, but see, that's the kind of thing I think that's happening, and so I think what's brought me to the state, and the people and the kindness and generosity and the openness and so forth. It could be a weak spot for the political class to take advantage of. But I think that what's the mission of the state? What's the state supposed to be doing? Balancing a budget, taking care of the residents of the state, educating them. Are they doing that as effectively as they could or they can? see, it's just, again, if you look at it, you go and you take that to the upper level, to the federal level. I believe, just like the United States has gotten away from being a conservative and a God-worshipping country as originally founded. And I don't mean, born again God-fearing category, but the principles our nation was founded upon. That's why I say, if you disagree with me, go back to the Federalist Papers.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm glad you've mentioned the Federalist Papers, by the way, because I would encourage anyone to read them, and there are there are all kinds of kind of reworks to make them easier to understand. But it was the argument for why the Constitution needed to be ratified, and they are absolutely fascinating. And when you read them, you really understand that this country is completely different at this point in terms of what we've allowed the courts to do to this whole relationship between citizen and government. I mean, the social compact or contract that the Constitution was, we're far outside of it. We've far surpassed it. Go ahead, sir.
Part of the issue, this is just, again, my opinion, and it's just my opinion. If you look at the federal level, and as Tocqueville said, that politics is local. It all begins locally. And he was a young French, aristocrat, I guess, came over to study the prisons in the 18th century in the United States, and he stayed here several years, and he wrote, a couple books. But his theory was that politics is local, and if you look at the state level as well as the federal level, do we have too much money in politics today? Or is there too much political money being spent on politicians, to allowing them to, or influencing their decisions away from those kinds of decisions for the people? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of people have said that. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, because I don't know. I don't know if I could get behind restrictions. I know that in terms of, in a free country, it's your right to try to lobby a politician from an individual, perspective, or from a, bigger interest, I guess. The problem is, we're human beings, and so we're tempted to deviate from our principles for money, I guess. Obviously, look at Arkansas. I mean, look at how corrupt Arkansas is with the politicians that are in jail now.
Well, I was very surprised at that. I thought that shocked me. I didn't think that it would be that kind of. There's bad apples in every barrel, but the way it was described in the paper and some of the things that I heard from others about that, I thought it's a little bit more. It's broader than just a few individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is.
So, but going back to the money, if you think about it, why are there's just too much of that, I think, chasing politicians. To me, the politician is no different than an actor today. They don't represent the people. They have somebody telling them what to say, how to say it, what to do, how to stand, and what bills to pass. Those kinds of things. Just like an actor. Yeah. An actor doesn't have to be smart. They just have to be good at listening to somebody else reading script.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like. And a lot of these people are doing that. If you look at, for example, the Democratic debates, the first one. I watched that and I thought, oh my goodness, it's amazing. These people what's our country founded upon? You would think we're some European country at that point in time. So I just I don't know.
Okay,
and
so
again,
yeah, go. We're talking with Bob Rodweller. Bob, he moved here in 2012. And I think it's interesting, Bob, that you bring up the phony term limits bill that said it was setting term limits when it was really extending term limits. That's funny that you had just moved here and, you were deceived by it. A lot of Arkansans were deceived by that piece of legislation. So what do you think about the state of Arkansas politics today? Because, we are very much, at least on paper, a red shirt or a Republican state. But what do you think about our tax policies? As someone who moved here, I mean, you moved here because the people were nice, but I mean, where what direction you think we're headed?
Well, I think, and I've said this when we were building the house, if watch out, we'll be just like the East Coast and West Coast, so all the same policies happening. And I think we're starting to see that with the tax policies. It's easy to spend other people's money. It's very easy. And the state is still a reasonably priced state to live in. But what's becoming obvious to a lot of people, you can see that your tax dollars are starting to increase all the time. And it's not just in overt taxes, they're in covert taxes. They're fees and things like that. Look at all the fees and charges and on your telephone bills and things like that are going up. So I think that if the state were really serious, and I see what they're doing, they're trying to consolidate the big departments down in Little Rock. But is that really for efficiency's sake or just about control? And I did some research down. I was trying to get some information on procurements and things in the state. And I don't know, I don't believe that they're using, to me, what I used in my career was basically an activities-based accounting process. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're doing that. If you take, for example, we paid our registration for the cars for 3 years. Well, we got something in the mail and said that your cars you haven't done your paid your personal property taxes yet. And I thought, well, wait a minute, something's out of kilter. If you can buy your tags or your little stickers for 3 years, why aren't we being flagged for this? Why aren't we doing that at the same time? So it seems to be out of kilter. And to me, this is the same kind of thing that if you look at it, if you know that it's going to cost X dollars to do an application for, I don't know, a car or something like that, you could say to the employees of the Department of Vehicles, it cost you $20 to do this application. So let's all see how we can reduce the cost of this. And incentivize it, give them bonuses for reducing it by 5%. I don't see that. I don't hear that.
Well, so what you're talking, you mentioned activities-based costing. That's trying to get those numbers to where you at least have those numbers.
Absolutely.
So and then you can try to chip away at it. And I think there's some movement to try to do that at some point, at least getting more data. But boy, these bureaucrats, they certainly resist it in a lot of ways. Bob Rodweller, we appreciate you coming on. I'd love to do it again. I'd love to. First of all, thank you for moving to Arkansas, sir, for your retirement. And we're going to keep telling the truth and letting people know what's really going on, and hopefully we can move that needle and make things a lot easier on everybody.
Well, there's a lot of other areas in the state too that we could talk about, but we could do that's another day. But
all right,
Paul, it's been good talking with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Talk again soon.
Bob Rodweller,
You're
everybody.
welcome. Thank you.
Moved here from Maryland to retire, and it's pretty interesting. All right, so we've got your meme of the day coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
That's not even to get into the tremendous job he's done with the American economy. But these Democrats, they have no substance to what they're saying. And the ones that are more moderate, like perhaps Joe Biden, they're running scared. They're afraid of their own shadows.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm glad that you brought up the alliance with Saudi Arabia and Israel, because that's certainly something that the mainstream media will never, ever talk about or, give the president any credit for that at all. And mainly because maybe they don't want to acknowledge what a threat Iran actually is, and how the last administration, we're cutting these deals that make absolutely no sense. Again, we're talking with David Rubin, the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's the author of the book Trump and the Jews. Now, Rubin, or David, you're also the founder and president.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Real quick, you got to check this story out, and we're going to get to your meme of the day, but Bernie Sanders, oh man, this is fantastic. Ash Scow on the Daily Wire. Senator Bernie Sanders has advocated for a $15 minimum wage and more unionization for years. He's also put his money where his mouth is by becoming the first presidential campaign to unionize and pay his workers at least $15 an hour. Okay, but this also means his campaign has become an example of the pitfalls of his own policies. His campaign's union contract resulted in a flat annual salary of $36,000 for field staffers. In a normal 40-hour work week, that would pay about $17 an hour. But some staffers say they work up to 60 hours a week, meaning their pay ends up being $13 an hour. So what's he done? Well, he's now cutting back their hours, which means his campaign is less efficient, in order to make sure that he is not a hypocrite and he's actually paying them a $15 an hour minimum wage. It's yours. You got to have it. It's your right. Unionize. Socialism. Santa Claus. I want to give you stuff. Free college. Free education. Anything you need. Here's your meme of the day. Courtesy of Hooks and Triggers on Instagram. Some lady handing a credit card. Lady getting it handed back to her by the cashier. I'm sorry, but your race card has been declined. Do you have another form of argument? You're a racist. You're a racist. Everyone's a racist. Donald Trump is trying to divide the country. He's trying to divide us into groups, and he's going to capitalize on those groups. Folks, I hope you have a great day. Happy Monday to everybody out there. We will see you tomorrow morning. Go to conduitnews.com for the latest. Arkansas, be safe.